So, where did shit go wrong? Well, the next match was the other Survivor Series elimination bout. It had Sheamus, King Barrett, and the New Day versus Ryback, the Lucha Dragons, and the Usos. So, to its credit, at least this one had more relevant participants, even though Sheamus and especially King Barrett haven't been booked very strongly. At least the New Day are the tag team champions. And it's not like the Lucha Dragons or the Usos have been booked to be that dangerous right now anyway. And of course, Ryback lost to Kalisto, and that, in my opinion, just ruined him. But at least, there's a better balance of star power. The problem is they use the exact same storyline that they used for the first one, where the good guys dominate the villains, and in the end, it's just one guy versus three or four, I don't remember how many, and it's like the same facial expressions. It was like, did they accidentally give them the same script that they gave the kickoff match? But just so fucking lazy. And why are the villains being treated like they're just so inferior? Roman Reigns defeated Del Rio. Ambrose defeated Kevin Owens. The good guys crushed the villains in the pre-show match. And now the good guys defeated the other villains, one of which is going to become the next World Heavyweight Champion in this one. And like, what they could have done with this is maybe set up the next major feud, which from what I understand technically did. But they should have had, instead of one Lucha Dragon and one Uso being taken out, they should have eliminated one team entirely and had the other team dominate the tag team champions. Therefore, the next tag team championship plotline has been set up, whether the opponents are the Usos or Lucha Dragons. From what I hear, that it's going to be some sort of triple threat. Whether they go through with that, I don't know. And right now I don't really care. But to me, having an Uso and Lucha Dragon both lose a member, it just makes them, both teams, feel a little more irrelevant. Once again, nobody benefited from this pay-per-view. Sheamus got pinned by Ryback, who lost to Kalisto, and in the last pay-per-view was squashed by Kevin Owens, who now just lost to Ambrose. So Ryback is no longer the potential World Heavyweight Champion that he actually once was. Sheamus lost to this guy, technically, even though it was like a 3-versus-1 match but at that point. But Sheamus is about to become the World Heavyweight Champion. The booking is so bad. But in terms of the quality of the match itself, it was also pretty boring and overlong. They all did their normal spots, but it just felt kind of phoned in, something we could have easily seen on Raw, which I guess that makes this better than the first one, since the quality of a Raw match is usually higher than what we get on SmackDown, if only by a little bit. But this sucked, and it totally killed the momentum that the pay-per-view was building up. And unfortunately, it would never really recover. So, but like I said, New Day, funny entrance, did that right. The Divas Championship, Charlotte versus Paige. So this storyline actually started off a little interesting, but bad booking killed it, and they got desperate and threw in Charlotte's dead brother to make it more dramatic, to make us hate Paige that much more. Unfortunately, this did not work for me, but for very different reasons. I'm not going to go into whether or not it was tasteless, but I think Charlotte was not a very effective babyface. When I can't think of his name, Reed Flair, when he was brought up, Charlotte kept almost bring it up so much to where it felt like she was trying too hard to garner sympathy. She's never, mentioned him before, at least since coming to the main roster, as far as I'm aware. So the fact that she kept using him to make us care about her felt very manipulative, and so that just kind of reduced her as this babyface. I still think she should be heel. Genetically superior is something that belongs to a heel. That tagline or whatever, the soundbite, or at least a wild card, but they're trying to present Charlotte as this really nice girl. And I just don't think it's that convincing, even though she's trying. And it's not like she's done a bad job as a performer. It's just the material she's been given sucks. Paige, on the other hand, has excelled in her promos, but keeps getting beaten by people who aren't in the title scene at this time. When she turned on PCB, it was because she was losing too much. And after she turned on them, she then would lose to Natalya, who herself is a jobber, Becky Lynch. So it's like, yeah, we're supposed to buy her as a credible threat to Charlotte. In my opinion, that is what made this feud so uninteresting in the long run, is you didn't really buy Paige in this position. And when booking a match, you have to have two relatively equal forces. Now, granted, you could have somebody like Lesnar and Rollins. Lesnar towers over Rollins, but Rollins has been crafty and he usually gets help, so that sort of evens up the odds. You don't get that with Paige here. So, to me, it had no drama, even though it was really trying to do that. No real tension or suspense like so many of the other matches here. And the quality was strange, because outside of a few sloppy spots, it was technically well wrestled. Both women, showed some really good moves. It was pretty brutal and intense in spots. It felt like a legit wrestling match, and I've seen worse from both Charlotte and Paige, where it seemed like, I don't know, they were just being too soft. And I thought they were trying hard, but the crowd just sort of killed it. The crowd was bored out of their minds, and I was too, and it was strange. It makes me wonder if women's wrestling will ever truly get over on the main roster. NXT is almost a totally different entity at this time, although even then, are they seriously going to do fucking Bayley versus Eva Marie? That's how they're going to follow up Bayley's match with. So, I can't even get into there. But I'm getting into rant mode. Let's calm down. I think the problem with this match, beyond the terrible writing and booking, is it wasn't a very well paced match. So even though both women were working hard, I never felt like the match was ever picking up steam. Most matches, they either start off, really fast, really strong, and then they sort of slow down so they don't burn the audience out, and then we'll pick back up. Or maybe it'll be a slow burn match, where it starts off a little slow, but gradually, gains momentum until like the second half is very exciting and non-stop. Here, it's like they sort of started off in the middle, where it's not really slow, but it's not really fast. And then they just sort of flatlined all the way through. Never slowing down, but never really, picking up any speed. And that just made it kind of hard to pay attention. Even though, once again, on a technical level, this wasn't bad. So, yeah, I didn't like it, but I understand why some people do. Charlotte should definitely have been the winner, so I'm not complaining there. But at the same time, she conquered somebody who really did not feel like they were strong enough to be in that position. So I don't really feel like she gained anything. And of course, Paige lost again, so she didn't gain anything either. Even though she arguably did benefit from the storyline, just because she is a very good interview. Next we have, what do I have any more time for next? Yeah, Tyler Breeze versus Dolph Ziggler. The horrid Rusev versus Ziggler storyline finally died, and this sort of rose from the ashes, and actually did have a strong start. I think Ziggler is still a horrible babyface, but when Breeze made his debut and kicked Ziggler's ass, I was interested, and I did like, I think, the subsequent Raw where you'd see, Breeze had like his own section blocked off, and he, was watching Ziggler, and that was kind of interesting too. But afterwards, I don't remember anything else happening between these two guys. I remember some Breeze matches, I remember some Ziggler matches, but maybe more happened, and it was just so forgettable that it didn't matter. Or maybe because I did miss a few SmackDowns, I just didn't see the extent of it. But this feud just sort of burned out almost as quickly as it began, which is a shame, because I did think there was some potential here, both to build up Breeze and to maybe help Ziggler sort of catch fire again. Because even though I don't really like Dolph Ziggler, I will acknowledge that he was for a long time one of the most over performers on the roster, and for that reason alone, I think he deserves more than he's gotten. Unfortunately, I feel like he's been booked so badly lately that fans are starting to lose interest in him, and that's kind of sad. This match was okay. It's one of those matches where it seemed like, it was building up some momentum, but just when it was getting good, it suddenly ends. And actually, I forgot to mention, that was sort of an issue I had with the Owens versus Ambrose match too. But here it was even more noticeable because this was not a very long match. And I don't want to say that it was a squash, but very anticlimactic, and that made it sort of unsatisfying. Ziggler's inconsistent attempts at psychology still annoys the hell out of me. Like at times he'll be limping as if he could barely walk because his leg is so hurt, and then the next moment he's running around like he's perfectly fine and using kicks. And it just draws attention to the fakeness of wrestling, and that's one of the reasons I don't like Ziggler. But still, from what we got, it was still a fast-paced affair. I'd hope so, considering both of these guys at least, can move. And it was short, and there were some smooth spots that I did like. A few unconvincing spots too, but, it was harmless. But it's like, did anybody really gain anything from it? Ziggler beat Rusev, so you'd think that would be a good stepping stone for him, but no. He loses to Ambrose, and then he loses to Tyler Breeze very quickly. So once again, Ziggler has been knocked down in the importance level. He is just a jobber, and I don't believe WWE is really going to do anything with Breeze. I think in a month or two, he's going to be the next Fandango. They'll be jobbing and getting squashed. And I like Breeze, but unfortunately that gimmick just doesn't really have a long shelf life to it before it starts getting old. NXT, once again, is an entirely different entity with a very different audience. And people, I think, responded more to Breeze being a really good worker than the popularity of the gimmick. And Fandango, also a really good worker, but unfortunately, he ran out of momentum just because the audience lost interest. I'm going to end this video now, and we'll continue in the next one.